Welcome to the Game Profess podcast, where the students have taken over and we profess our love and hate for all things video games. Today, one out of the big three is achieving their sales targets. Apparently, the apocalypse can happen twice. Maybe. PlayStation would have you believe that, quote, play has no limits, end quote, but unfortunately Sony made it clear this week that those limits exist for their customers. GTA 6 can't buy itself more performance with that almost $1 billion budget, supposedly. Dbrand thinks it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. Microsoft almost avoided the negative news spotlight thanks to Sony, but we didn't forget. And Sony looked at Bungie and saw it as a pack of squishy grunts and decided to lob a plasma grenade into the middle of it. If we have time, I get into a game that I've been playing lately. Let's get into some initial kind of small pieces of news. Unfortunately, some sad news to start with. Unfortunately from a human standpoint, as Ubisoft's co-founder Claude Guillemot unfortunately passed away on June 19th, 2026 at the age of 69. As with a lot of high-profile deaths, it was a plane crash involving a twin-engine Cessna 421 Golden Eagle. The incident took place in a field just before landing at an airfield off the Atlantic coast in western France. The flight instructor was also on board that unfortunately passed away. Both individuals were licensed. They were flying into the area to participate in a weekend air show, which was subsequently canceled. He was the co-founder of Ubisoft in March 1986 with his brother, who is the one that you think of, who is the CEO of Ubisoft. That's, I think it's, Yves. I always forget his name. But the other Guillermo brother is the one who's actually the CEO of Ubisoft. He's still around, so he's still in charge, but his brother, who helped co-found the company in 1997, passed away. So condolences to him and his family. Not going to mention anything else about Ubisoft at the moment, so hopefully they get the peace he deserves. On a lighter note, not necessarily gaming related, but I couldn't help but think of the Arkham games and a bunch of the Batman movies when I read this story, so I thought it was fun to talk about. But there is the Mexican Batman of Jalisco, Jalisco. The incident is an unidentified vigilante actively hunting down suspected motorcycle thieves. That's always the videos you see online where they're just driving by somebody and they snatch a purse or a phone and drive off immediately. He's capturing them, or she, most likely he though, capturing them and taping them to lampposts in public areas. So if anyone looks this up or Google it, straight up, just like brown tape, fully body taped to a pole, something you would see out of a classic Batman show or movie. The incidents are occurring of the city of the same name, as I've mentioned, with the first one happening on June 13th of this year. Over a span of 10 days, at least 5 suspected thieves have been found tied to poles. Local media suggests the vigilante stepped up due to the extreme public frustration with high crime rates in the area and the slow pace of local law enforcement. Apparently, the vigilante intercepts suspects at night, overpowers them, uses heavy brown duct tape to strap their bodies and arms to streetlights or poles. And in one instance, 2 men were taped back to back. It's just like so cliche, and I love it. Oh, man. Outside of that, the word ratero, which is Spanish for thief, is often written across the suspects' foreheads in permanent marker or paint. The vigilante has also drawn mouse beards, and cat whiskers on the faces of the restrained men. Sometimes there's a large pink cardboard sign warning that are often left above the men detailing their alleged crimes, and allegedly stolen motorcycles are parked right next to them as proof. Several of the taped-up individuals show signs of being beaten, visible cuts, bruises, and sometimes bloody faces, suggesting they were taken in by force. You don't say! You're telling me potential thieves were taped to a lamppost and they just said, Oh man, Mexican Batman, you got me. Oh man, oh no. I guess I'll go quietly and you can tape me to this pole.
I mean, like, I just gotta say, like, having the strength to be able to tape/tie a full-grown man to a light post is insanity.
Yeah, I mean, you're basically saying he's strong enough to beat somebody into submission and then still be able-bodied to prop this person up and tape them to the pole.
Yeah, assuming it's not more than one person, because it is possible.
True. That could be true. Oh, man.
I could see that fitting a lot more. But it's still hilarious, regardless.
I mean, dude. Like, it's definitely humiliating. I mean, and a lot of these alleged thieves and or victims aren't being actually prosecuted. They're being treated as victims because, sure, yeah, in the eyes of the law, there's no evidence that they're actually thieves. So, you know, they're not actually being prosecuted. It's not really possible. Right. If they are thieves, I would say, you know what? They probably got their punishment's worth. I'm not gonna lie. A full beatdown and public humiliation is pretty good corrective action if I've ever heard of anyone, assuming they're guilty themselves.
True.
So, but I thought it was funny. I enjoyed it. So just so you know, there is a hero out there. It may not be the one we deserve, but it's the one we need. So, alrighty. Let's move on to some actual game news. Heru, I heard you had a problem.
Oh, man. Dude, yesterday was the worst experience I've ever had. So, as I'm sure a lot of people know, I both work and game on the same computer. Mostly through a virtual desktop for work. But yesterday I woke up at like 7 a.m. and I was on a meeting on my phone. I woke up, pulled up the meeting, and I'm coming out of my room and I hit the power button on my PC and it turns on and then immediately shuts down. And I'm like, huh? and like I'm half focusing on the meeting and half focusing on what the hell's happening. So I hit the button again. It powers up, boots down. Okay. This was the fastest like power failure I've ever seen in a computer. So it was clearly tripping a short of some kind.
I mean, it sounds like legitimately it's powering enough just for you to actually recognize that it has power and then immediately shut down.
Yeah, all the lights, like all the RGB turns on and then immediately shuts off.
Jeez.
Like it was instantaneous, like less than a second the whole time. So I start breaking down the PC and I was
talking over, so if anyone missed it, you're assuming short.
Yeah. I'm assuming a short circuit of some kind where the PSU was getting feedback and tripping and ultimately just shutting off, right? Mm-hmm. So I started breaking down everything as I'm like half trying to work and deal with like meetings through my phone. And like, granted, I have a laptop, so like if I absolutely needed to, I could have just done that. But I was half trying to break it down and half paying attention to meetings and so on and so forth. And I eventually got down all the way to the cardboard test, which is effectively there's nothing on this motherboard except for a stick of RAM, the CPU, the motherboard, and a PSU attached to it. That's it. And it did the exact same thing. So I was like, okay, so it has to be the motherboard or the CPU. And I confirmed it wasn't the power supply for those who are curious, because I took Demi's power supply out of her PC and threw it into mine, and it still failed. So,
did you put your power supply in hers?
No, why would I do that?
Well, I mean, that would 100% confirm that yours was working if her computer turned on.
Too much effort. I was almost 100% positive that it wasn't the power supply in the first place, which by the end of the story, you'll realize I was correct.
Yeah.
So I ended up taking the motherboard and the CPU to Micro Center, which is where I bought them originally, back in December of 24, and just had them effectively paid back to me. Because Micro Center's warranty program is amazing. And then I was like, okay, well, I'm already here. I'm already going to have to rebuild this PC. Might as well get a few upgrades. So I replaced my 7800 X3D with a 9850 X3D. My B650 Asus motherboard with a B850 MSI Tomahawk. And my really old NZXT liquid cooler with a brand new Arctic Freezer 3 liquid cooler.
Dang, dude, you leapfrogged me in processor now.
Yeah, you're at what, 9800?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I was looking.
Cash.
My goal was to like not really go more than like $500 out of pocket, because I got close to 500 back, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, screw it. I'll put another 500 into this. I don't really care.
It was like you're already there, so if you've got the money, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I wanted to replace the motherboard eventually anyways. I wasn't really expecting it to just die. But I'm not really surprised given everything that everyone knows about Asus B650s. So not terribly surprising. And yeah, I put everything back together and launched it, and literally like 10 minutes before raid time. It was that chaotic. I was going the whole day trying to get this all figured out while managing meetings, because I knew I have a raid at 6 p.m. that I need to be to. And it sucked too, because like this was one of the most important nights, because we weren't going to have our main tank and raid leader tomorrow, aka Thursday, because he was going on a 4th of July vacation. So I was like, I need to be there because I absolutely need to re-kill this last boss so that we don't run into any issues with people not being able to get all their mounts. I hate that it doesn't just give you the mount anymore. Like, come on. But anyways, it is just kind of dumb, in my opinion. I hated the whole thing. I'm glad that it wasn't like a power surge or anything, but I'm so confused as to what happened, because literally I was playing Path of Exile 2 the night before, went to bed, it was like 10 o'clock, and shut everything down normally, didn't see any issues, came out the next morning, just doesn't boot. And I'm like, this is dumb. I hate it.
Yep. Yeah, got some sort of lemon somewhere.
Yep. Pretty much. I mean, can you call it a lemon if it lasted almost 2 years?
I would say yes, even though it
Fair.
didn't fail immediately, because I would say it's well under what I would consider a 5-year lifespan.
Yeah, and
is kind of
to be fair, it was also still technically under warranty through Asus.
Yeah, well, I mean, you got taken care of.
Yeah, I just wasn't going to deal with it through Asus because
Micro Center is great. Asus customer service as of late, which we've had a couple pieces of news on here, way less great.
Yeah, pretty much. But anyways, it's back up and running, and runs great. Haven't had any issues.
I remember. I was looking at those pictures, like zooming all the way in. I'm like, no bent pins, all looks good.
Funny story.
No marks?
There were no marks. There were no bent pins when I originally took everything out.
Uh-huh.
By the time that I got it to Micro Center, there were bent pins. And I was like, I must have just been so frustrated and done knowing that it was the motherboard that I just didn't care, and I just slammed that shit back in there.
Asus definitely would have not helped you.
I know. Micro Center would, though. Micro Center doesn't care.
Yeah, they're pretty awesome. I mean, I don't need to tell the story now, but if we ever get into it, I don't know if I've told it already, but it was like 1 day past my warranty for my GPU, and they took care of me. So
yeah, I don't think we ever told it on the podcast, but I know of it.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's not too long of a story. It was like literally first water cooling job, so I got 2-year warranty on it. There ended up being a tiny leak, not even over any actual electronics, but over the intake bottom fan. So just a tiny little drop every now and then was hitting the fan and misting up into the GPU.
Oh,
So eventually killed it. And then I go in, and because it's that night, they're already closed. The last day of my warranty, they were already closed. So I go in the next day and I was like, look, you were closed. This died yesterday. It was a 3090, and they're like, well, we don't really have any 4090s. So are you okay with the 4080? And I'm like, a generation newer gives me similar game performance. Yeah, sure. I'm fine.
right, exactly. Like, no, I'm absolutely not okay with that.
Right.
Go
I was
ahead.
like, at the time, I didn't need the actual extra rendering work power that the 3090 would have had an advantage in. So
Right.
it's like, yeah, fine by me. I'm just happy to have a working GPU.
For sure, yeah. I don't blame you.
Oh man. Alrighty. Well, moral of the story is Micro Center's awesome. As much as we love PC gaming, sometimes it's pain, but to be honest, you could have a console die, so it's really
Yeah, and then
not
you're
necessarily
actually
different.
just stuck with the manufacturer. Good luck.
True. Unless you have like some specific purchased warranty.
Right, exactly.
Alrighty. Let's get into the next segment, Business and Econ. Alrighty. As always, we get in over our head. Specifically, as we do every now and then, we're getting into some hardware sales numbers. So, according to analyst Matt Pacetta, total U.S. video game spending has reached $4.2 billion in May 2026, which is a 3% increase year over year, and hardware spending grew a massive 38% to $249 million. However, the big catch here is that while spending grew, it's pretty much a result of all the hardware price increases rather than more people buying consoles. The average price for a console hit $502, which is a 14% increase, with the PlayStation 5 average jumping 33% and the Xbox Series increasing 22%. And we ain't done, folks. We'll get into some more price increases later. PlayStation unit sales saw a staggering 58% drop compared to May 2025, and overall spending fell by 43%. So this marks the lowest hardware unit total for PlayStation in the US since May of 2000. So that would be 26 years ago is the last time they saw hardware sales that low. Microsoft is not an exception to this rule, as the console saw its lowest hardware unit sales ever, period, full stop. So they're also struggling. I mean, is anyone shocked? We're what, 5 years into this console cycle? 6 years into the console cycle?
Yeah.
And the consoles are more expensive than ever? Even adjusted for inflation, they're more expensive?
Yep.
So, yeah. Shock. You're way more money. However, the exception to this rule is the Nintendo Switch 2, which is not a stranger to price increases because it actually did go up initially. However, after completing its first 12 months on the market, it actually hit a massive 5.9 million install base in the US, which actually sets the second fastest selling record for video game hardware in the US for tracked history. This is the only console to ever beat the Switch 2 in its first year, or the only console to ever beat the Switch 2 in its first year was the Game Boy Advanced, which sold 6.5 million units. So, it's actually outpacing the original Switch. Now, the original Switch had hardware constraints in terms of like availability, so for a long time, that may play a factor here. But still, pretty impressive for a console that went up $100.
You're not wrong.
But it's also a new console, so like that price increase way more stomachable.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
Oh man. The Switch 2 is actually already outsold the lifetime sales of the base PlayStation 5 in Japan, with the Switch 2 sitting at 5.9 million units, narrowly edging out the PS5 base model's 5.92 million units. 5.94 versus the Switch. So, doing pretty well. Now, here's the thing. Company raising their console, big company, not necessarily a fan of companies because they tend to be heartless. Nintendo, even though their stock is down 50%, they're at like $10 and change right now, down from like $22, $24. Nintendo actually increased its employees' base salary by 10%. Whole company. So, you know what? I've as much as I hate Nintendo for all their copyright BS and their litigation of fans, at least they take care of their employees. I've already talked about how, one of their previous presidents took like 2 different 50% price cuts when the Nintendo Wii U was doing terrible, so they didn't have to lay off people. The one thing Nintendo at least consistently does year after year, decade after decade, is take care of their employees. So at least that's something good about the company.
I think that's largely due to the fact that they don't scale up super fast.
That's
right?
true.
They tend to scale as needed, whereas a lot of other companies will scale above their need and then downsize past that.
I mean, that's absolutely fair. I think Nintendo, because of the legacy of unique individuals too for their properties, understand the value of holding on to veterans that know what they're doing.
True.
As well. So rather than knowing, even though we're having a hard time, we've got these people that are good at their job, combined with the fact that you mentioned where we don't really have bloated teams.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's retain these people, make sure they're treated well. So yeah, good for their employees. A lot of companies don't necessarily do that. So there's at least a win in the column for Nintendo. Alrighty. Heru. You would think an apocalypse would only happen once. By the nature of an apocalypse, right, it's the end of something, the catastrophic event. So, if it's not happening once, it's happening, and then there's a long time in between the next apocalypse, at least minimum, right?
Sure.
Okay. Well, the RAMpocalypse started in late 2025, right?
Sure.
Well, supposedly RAMpocalypse 2.0 is going to happen later in 2026.
Nice.
Based on reports from Jefferies Equity Research, the tech industry is facing another massive memory price hike with a potential 40-50% surge expected in Q3 of 2026, with an additional 30 to 40% increase in Q4. So at its maximum, you could be looking at a 90% increase by Q1 of 2027.
Uh-huh. So, part of me is like, is this just like paid for advertisement to try and get people to like panic buy RAM now?
I mean, maybe, but it's not like there's a huge stock of RAM anyways. So,
True.
are 2 whales going to be able to panic buy and that's it?
True.
Unfortunately, some reports on top of these price increases also have like another 50% price increase over 2027, with potentially some relief after or during 2028. I mean, gosh, dude, that's so long. It's one of the, I was going to mention it, but I knew this was coming up. So like, you may as well get that nicer, newer processor because no way you're upgrading to any new architecture that's going to use a new style of RAM anytime soon. So you may as well enjoy that nice 9850 for a while.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, it was one of the reasons I upgraded my computer. It's like, I'm going to do it in case things get crazy. And I actually, even though I paid an inflated price for my RAM, the price I paid for my RAM is cheaper than what it is now. So.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
Oh man.
It's
Do you have 32 or 64? Because I ended up getting 64.
32. I know. I've been thinking about about going up too, but
you know what they always say? It's either the best time or the last chance. It's either the best chance or the last chance to do it.
It's true. Very true.
Of course, that's ignoring the fact that it could drop and you make the worst decision. But that's all separate.
Could it drop though?
I mean, I don't know. I never really know.
Sure.
Just a couple more points. We'll get into it, but there is an antitrust lawsuit happening, so maybe. Hardware manufacturer Lenovo did echo those specific numbers at the ISC 2026 Tech Conference, stating that memory prices will likely never fall back to pre-crisis levels. Lenovo warned of a new normal for elevated memory pricing that will continue into the 2030s. Microsoft also chimed in, warning that memory costs could double in just over a year, which echoes the numbers we just talked about, which we'll get into also affects console makers, obviously, as it's already affected the Steam machine that we talked about. So, yeah, could definitely be a good time if you wanted to upgrade, especially if it's going to double in price again. I mean, I just don't see how it's sustainable. Like, there's just no way people could afford it, like, at all. Like, I would have to imagine computer sales and console sales would tank. There's just no...
Yeah.
People just don't have the money to afford that.
Well, I mean, not even just that. The less RAM we have available, the less research is being done, too. Right? Like, at the end of the day, if they're not even trying to make RAM for consumers, they're not trying to improve RAM for consumers either.
Nope, that's true.
Like, we're going to be stuck on DDR5 probably for the next, 5 years or longer.
I mean, will this be... Like, I know the TikTok Moore's Law has kind of been dead for a while, which, if anyone doesn't know, the shorthand is, like, every other kind of cycle... technological prowess would double. It's just the real shorthand simplification of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's been dead for a while, but generally processing power has still increased, at least on a linear kind of scale. So if consumers in the consumer industry is stuck on DDR5 for an extended period of time, I mean, that's going to be your bottleneck. So does consumer processing power kind of stagnate and plateau then for the first time in history?
Probably. Like, unironically, probably.
Oh, man.
Which we've talked about how that could be both good and bad.
I was going to say, developers are going to have to get off their butts.
Exactly. They're going to have to stop trying to create games that utilize next generation processing power because there isn't one.
Yeah, to cover up on efficiency.
Correct. To cover up on poor optimizations.
Yep.
Like, that's just not going to be a thing anymore. Let's talk about this lawsuit.
Yes. So, the only potential relief, if all of this doom and gloom from multiple people in the industry is to be avoided, would be potentially a federal class action antitrust lawsuit, which was filed against the big three manufacturers, that being Samsung, SK Hynix, and Micron. Those are the three that, outside of Chinese companies, that make basically all of the memory for the entirety of the planet. The lawsuit was officially filed on June 25th, 2026 in California federal court. The complaint alleges that companies used the industry shift towards HBMs, which are high bandwidth memory, which is critical for AI as an excuse to orchestrate a coordinated pivot, purposely curtailing older consumer-grade memory production. Since 2022, these three companies have allegedly shifted around 25% of their DRAM wafer capacity to HBMs, a product that obviously yields a gross margin 3 to 5 times higher than conventional DRAM. The lawsuit claims that coordinated artificial scarcity has driven up consumer commodity DRAM prices by a staggering 700%, and as we just talked about, potentially 90 to 200% over the next couple of years, on top of that 700% that already exists. The lawsuit points to a historical pattern of bad behavior, noting that Samsung and SK Hynix previously pled guilty to criminal price fixing in the 2000s, which resulted, and again, this is into the 2000s, so adjust for inflation, a $731 million in fines and actual prison time for several executives. Currently, about 50% of the global memory capacity is locked up in long-term agreements, LTAs, with major tech companies, and analysts expect this could rise to 70% in the future. The lawsuit accuses these three companies of artificially keeping consumer DRAM production low to drive up prices, creating what we refer to as the RAMpocalypse. So, if they are successful and they lose this lawsuit, not only would they have to pay obviously millions in fines, but they would have to immediately ramp up production. That still doesn't help us in the short term because that would take time to do, but it would at least basically guarantee that there would be relief on the horizon instead of playing this game of maybe you'll see relief in 2028.
Right, exactly. The thing that it's kind of weird for me, right? I've talked about this exact concept when it comes to like internet access, when it comes to like vehicle access, transportation access, things like that. But one could make the observation that it is not possible to live in an expected standard of living without access to a computer.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
And as those prices go up...
Computer or phone.
Computer or phone, yes. And it doesn't necessarily even have to be a smartphone. You just need a cell phone.
I mean, I'm saying smartphone because it's basically your internet, right? It's your internet-connected device. So, like, submitting resumes and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And increasing the prices of RAM doesn't just affect gamers. It's going to affect that Costco bought PC too. Right? Like, that's going to increase in price too.
Yeah, those entry-level PCs, but not just the PCs. Apple recently announced price increases for all of their Macs and their iPhones as well, as they ran out of existing stock of memory. Yeah. So it's your phones even are going to see $100 to $200 price increase, and that's just this generation of phone. If it keeps going like this, you could see that same increase on the next generation of iPhones.
And you can technically play devil's advocate and say that these are companies and they're allowed to do whatever they want to do to be able to make the most amount of profit as long as it's legal. But the problem comes down to when an entire society runs off of your product. You are no longer allowed to just do whatever you want.
Yep.
Like, everything runs off of RAM. We're talking every vehicle that's on the road and has been for the past, like, 26 years has some amount of RAM in it.
Yeah, I mean,
almost
everything has memory in it.
Yes, almost everything. And a lot of things that people don't even consider. Your vacuum probably has RAM in it. I'm not even kidding you. That's the stupid part.
No, the Dyson just runs off magic. Don't you lie to me.
God damn it. But, like, it's not even just, like, computers and cell phones and things like that. It's legitimately everything from Amazon Echoes to vacuums that are high powered to smart anything really, but like fridges,
Watches, TVs,
watches,
things
TVs.
that most people don't even think about necessarily needing memory.
Washer
Your
and dryer.
TV has memory in it.
Yes, it absolutely does have memory in it. Your Amazon Fire Stick or Fire Cube has RAM in it. Probably not enough, to be honest, but it has it. So, I mean, that's
the only
that's
thing
kind
that
of the
doesn't
point.
have RAM in it
Is you.
is your shopping cart.
Oh, that's good.
Your PC
like
part
that one.
picker may list it, but I guarantee you probably don't actually have it in that cart you're about to purchase.
True. Very true. It's a problem. And when your company makes a product that the world runs on, you no longer get a say over how much of that product you can and cannot make. Because governments...
Especially if you're colluding.
Yes, especially if you're colluding. Especially when you have a previous history of colluding, which makes it worse because they will take this lawsuit seriously because of that. Congratulations, you screwed yourself for the rest of time.
Yeah, we only hope that the 2.5 decades between this one and the last one is that they got complacent instead of more clever.
True, very true. But at the end of the day, governments will come down on you if you are affecting their economy as a company. So if you're affecting their economy, their ability to, manipulate whatever the hell's going on in their country, they are absolutely going to come after you. And it starts like this, right? It starts with antitrust class action lawsuits. And then from there, the government goes, actually, we're not even going to have this be a class action. We're just going to go after them.
Could be.
So,
well, I mean, I don't know if I want this to be true or not. I just want to say, if it's true, I hope that people get their just desserts and we get a more concrete timeline for some relief on the pricing. But I'm not holding my breath on this one. So
me neither.
We'll see what happens. FYI, I know we've talked about Chinese manufacturers for memory. And while Apple may be trying to get approval to buy memory from some of those Chinese manufacturers, I accidentally took out this point here if you're looking at it. None of that is expected to offer any relief on the worldwide market. It's expected to only offer some relief on the Chinese markets itself. So don't expect that, new up-and-coming Chinese RAM manufacturing to actually help the rest of us.
Right, yeah.
Alrighty. That's all we got for business and econ. Let's get into the shop class. All right, heading down to shop class, taking a look at some tech tools. We're getting a little bit into some software here as well, and unfortunately, it's another kind of week of bad news days, I guess, as PlayStation definitely loses its way as they are doubling down on live service titles, aiming to, quote, revitalize the market, end quote, through both first-party and third-party content, because Concord wasn't a good enough teacher. We'll get into it, but Bungie had a bunch of layoffs. So, Marathon, obviously not the answer either. You don't lay off a huge portion of a company when the game is super successful. Well, unless you're Activision, but usually you don't. So there, and all the other, we've talked about other potential live service games that were in the work at Sony. So all those have also been canceled. So how much money, in the billions, have they spent on live service games for them to not work, and then they just dig their heels in the sand and said, we're going to do it. We're going to make it happen. So, Sony Entertainment president Hideki Nishino recently stated that live service games possesses the potential to reach a massive global audience, while single-player narratives will remain console first. Live service multiplayer games will launch simultaneously on PS5 and PC, as we've talked about before. However, During this investor QA, Sony is intentionally, quote, not chasing MAU, end quote, which is monthly active users blindly. They are planning to integrate AI into the pipelines to expand usage styles. Crucially, Sony confirmed they do not intend to sell hardware at significant losses. Not good for the upcoming PlayStation price. And that Sony Interactive president also clarified that despite recent PS5 price hikes, sales are proceeding, quote, as planned. Again, though, we just talked about one of the worst hardware sales Sony has ever had, with the staunch refusal to take the massive hardware losses that has spurred community rumors and concerns about potentially a large, massive price tag to the upcoming PlayStation, which you and I have mentioned during that discussion about the Steam machine, to expect a console over $1,000.
Oh yeah, I would be surprised if it's not over $1,000 at this point. It sounds like they're not willing to take massive losses on hardware. Are they willing to take any losses? Because that's the question.
That's a good question.
If they're willing to take any losses, then we could see one that is potentially under $1,000, but that would still only be the base model. The non-base model, the high-end model, is probably going to be closer to $1,500.
Yeah, I think you're right in that, especially the pro version, because they always have like the base version and the pro version. So I would imagine your base version, if it's under $1,000, would minimum be $900. But I still think that's being generous. And your pro version could end up hitting almost $1,500, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm thinking so. And that's assuming they don't decide to come out with a third model and call it the PlayStation 6 Max or some crap.
100%. And keep in mind, all of this doesn't discount the fact that they're still trying to spend money to find a live service game. How many examples in history have been successful with someone going out trying to make the industry killer? Okay, Halo was one of the biggest games in the world, right? Okay, how many games came out and were claiming to be the Halo killer?
I have no idea.
I mean, I remember back in the day, there was always like the kill zones, the resistances, the infamouses, and even a bunch of pretenders that weren't even as successful as those titles. And to be clear here, I'm not saying those games weren't fun and didn't have merit. They did, but none of those titles reached the heights that Halo did in its heyday. I'm not saying now it's fallen off, but at the time they never reached those same heights, right?
Yeah.
Okay. PUBG comes out, and I'm just skipping a lot. There's a lot of examples in between. There's a lot of examples in between. But PUBG comes out, okay? Fortnite was a game that already existed. They just adapted the PUBG mode to their game. And never did they claim to be the PUBG killer. They became big. And how many titles came out claiming to be the next big Battle Royale, the next big PUBG, the next big Fortnite killer?
Bro, so
and none
many
of them are successful. Even Arc Raiders, which I'm not putting in this category because I don't think I ever saw anyone claiming that they were going to be the next big thing. They were just trying to make a good, fun game. They weren't trying to be the next big thing. Come out. We're very big and successful. Obviously, they haven't had the same retention as a Fortnite or a PUBG, but that's also fine. But the point is that even games that get big aren't claiming to be killers ahead of time. Yeah. I don't see Sony finding any success trying to make the massive global live service title. Stop focusing on gaming results in your development and start focusing on gaming quality in your development. It drives me nuts.
Oh, I'm right there with you. I mean, you see it all the time in the MMO space. People constantly talk about the WoW killer, like anything's going to kill WoW. Like the only thing, and I've said this time and time again, the only thing that will kill WoW is WoW.
Pretty much.
That is the only thing that will ever kill WoW at this point.
The only thing that's going to kill Call of Duty is Call of Duty. You saw that happen. I mean, it's not dead, but you saw them take a massive sales hit this last year because the game wasn't good.
Yeah, and I mean, World of Warcraft did the exact same thing down in Shadowlands. Like, when Shadowlands released, it had a decent spike, but it lost a massive amount of players by the end of the first season.
Yep.
And normally you have this like little, wave of players coming back and, whatnot to the next patch. That didn't happen with Shadowlands. They just completely dropped the whole way.
100%.
Like, it's stupid because as a reminder for people when it comes to Arc Raiders, there wasn't even originally planned to be PvP in that game. So it wasn't even originally planned to even compete on the extraction PvP shooter realm in the first place. Yep. And then all of a sudden it just did. And if these companies would quit trying to make the next big thing and just start making good things, they would succeed a lot more. But at the exact same time, these giant ass companies, especially those that have a very large amount of impact on their country's economy, aka Sony, who has a very massive impact on Japan's economy, the government's not going to let them fail.
Nope.
They're just
not.
But
at the same time, they do have headquarters and stuff in the U.S., so sections of the company could fail.
That's true. That's absolutely true. But at the end of the day, Sony doesn't bring in as much to America as it does Japan.
The thing that drives me nuts in here, right? Because I mentioned make good games, okay? Yeah. Why Marathon? Why Concord? And I know we talk about original titles, and obviously we do want those. I don't want rehashes of the same game over and over again. Mm-hmm. But there are plenty of Sony titles that haven't had an entry in forever. Like, you want the live service game? How about making a new SOCOM with an extraction mode? Right? I'm not saying make that the only mode in the game because, gosh, we're saturated with it. But what about just a new SOCOM game in general, and then one of the multiplayer modes could be an extraction mode? Or what about a new Infamous game and try the thing that hasn't been successful yet, but it is unique, and if you can make it work, it would be great, where you make the live service portion of it with superheroes, with superpowers, supervillains. You have a whole universe that this would cater perfectly to that with a built-in IP. Hell, even Twisted Metal could be a super cool version of a battle royale where instead of the races, what if it's just a large giant racing map and there's pickups on the map for your car? So you can't build it out ahead of time. You got to find map pickups and you can trade out. And if you kill somebody, you can take what was equipped on their car. Like, this is just off the top of my head, but there's plenty of IPs that Sony has that they haven't had new entries in for a while, at least major entries,
right?
That they
or
could do something
ones.
with. What's that? What'd you say?
Well, or even successful ones, namely thinking of I think Jack and Dexter, but I don't remember clearly. Brain is fried, for those who are not aware. But yeah, it's just dumb. I mean, we've said it time and time again. We're probably beating a dead horse at this point.
Yep.
Quit trying to make the next big thing. We're not looking for the next big thing. Most of us who are looking for the next big thing, we're not looking at you.
Nope. The next big thing is going, I guarantee you. Here, you want this? The next big game, at its core, is going to be a good game.
Mm-hmm.
So start by making a good game, and then go from there. I don't understand how this is a hard concept.
Yeah, I mean, I look at like League of Legends as a great example, right? I don't know if you know this, but League of Legends originally was a purchased game, right? It was a box cost game.
Yeah.
A lot of people do not know that in any way, shape, or form. now it's completely free to play and it runs entirely on microtransactions. But where they started and where they are not the same by any stretch. They took the time to make a good game. Yeah. They made an okay game. It sold primarily because of their popularity from the original Dota, right? That's why it sold. It literally says on the original box art, from the creators of Defender of the Ancients, right? So that's where they originally got their fame. They created a primary game and then moved on, right? They basically tried to do the DayZ thing, but they did it before DayZ did the DayZ thing. Most people just know DayZ. Like, DayZ was originally, I think, like an Arma 3 mod or some crap.
I mean, Counter-Strike was a Half-Life mod that became a paid game that then went back to being a free game. Now, there is a $15 purchasable version for, like, look, I'm not a bot, I'm buying this $15 version type thing.
Right.
But anyways, point being is you can still, play portions of it for free, but, like, it's, like, no one goes out of their way on those games to be like, I'm putting all of the money into this, it's a brand new entry, and it's gonna be the next big thing. No.
Yeah.
All of them start as fun projects. I mean, Rocket League. Super-powered rocket battle cars, I think, was the name of the first title.
Yeah.
And it
was Rabs.
I feel like if I remember correctly, it didn't sell well.
No.
It did okay, but it didn't do well. And so they were like, there's too much, it's too complicated. So they stripped it down so that it was more fun. Not so that they could make the next big game. They just wanted a title that was more fun, that more people would enjoy.
Yep.
And then it became the big thing.
Correct. And even then, it's still not like the most popular esports title out there. No. By any stretch of the imagination.
More successful than most.
It is successful.
So, alrighty. Well, we're not done with the PlayStation news, so we're going to have to take a step away from that rant so that we can step on to another PlayStation rant. We talked about, in this QA investor call, Sony stepping away from PC, and as you and I have been saying, we are on the same line as the former PlayStation boss, Sean Layden, defending the strategy of porting PlayStation exclusive to PC, arguing it wasn't just a simple money grab. He explained that many PC gamers weren't going to buy the hardware anyways, which we have also said. Releasing on PC allows Sony to reach a demographic entirely outside their console ecosystem without cannibalizing console unit sales. Layden offered a blunt, entertaining critique for fans who claim PC ports damage the PlayStation brand by saying, quote, I love how everyone online is a marketing business analyst and darn near a part-time psychologist that understands the ins and outs of consumer spending and purchasing habits better than the billion-dollar organizations. Like, look, this is the guy that was in charge of PlayStation at one point saying, I don't know what they're talking about. Like the crossover, the crossover for PC gamers and PlayStation gamers is so small as to be irrelevant that it doesn't matter, and you should just release your games on PC.
Yes, 100%. Because, I mean, you and I are a perfect example of this. There are plenty of PlayStation, first-party titles that we would love to play. But we're not going to go out and buy your stupid hardware solely because you decide you want to lock it to that, even though my PC can run it better.
Yeah. We're already spending more money, because no one's going to deny that the average gaming PC is more expensive than a console. Like, I'm not going to be insane enough to right. I'm not going to be insane enough to claim that. But I think that obviously is the point, that we have spent so much money on these gaming devices so that we have more control, more flexibility, cheaper digital purchases, that we're not also going to go spend the money on a console, especially when the consoles aren't going cheaper like they used to. Like, I had a PlayStation 3, I had a PlayStation 4,
Yep.
but I bought them late in the life cycle because they were cheap and affordable, and the games that were exclusive that I wanted to play were also cheap and affordable. So I could get a whole console, like 10 different titles for a total of like $400 to $500.
Yeah.
So like 10 games and a console for $500, way easier to stomach than the base PlayStation, which is way worse of an experience than my current PC, for $650 and 10 games, because you're not going to get the same sales that you used to, for $1,000. So
Yeah. It's stupid. We consistently see this problem with companies making things significantly more, like cost significantly more, even though every single time that you increase that value by $10, you cut someone out who's planned to buy it. Right? That's what these $70, $80, $90 games are doing. You're stopping someone from buying your game. So while you made $30 off of one person, you lost $60 from another.
Yep.
Right? So you've effectively lost $30.
Yeah.
And I don't understand how these companies don't see that.
Well, PlayStation already knows this, because as we mentioned last week, they're not doing this to their multiplayer titles. Because they know if they release it day and day, they're going to make more money. If they actually truly believed this in their heart, they would also not release the multiplayer games. Now, I know the argument is to have a larger player base. What do you mean a larger player base? Does that mean more people are buying the game than they would if it was just on PlayStation? Because that's literally the point we're making. Yes, there's a larger install base because more people are buying the game. So why are you doing this to single-player games? So, it
probably does make them cheaper to develop, to be clear. Right? It probably does make them cheaper to develop, but at the exact same time, is that cheaper to develop fact going to net you more money? Not in the long term.
Sony's already proven it. The cost is worth it for multiplayer games, meaning, which is usually a larger upkeep and development because you've got balance instead of a straightforward single player experience. So it's more costly to do that for multiplayer games, and they've already shown that it's cost effective because they sell more copies and get more players. So it's ridiculous that they're not doing it for single player games. Well, anyways, it's not again, we've got 2 more pieces of negative Sony news this week. and this all came, by the way, after the negative Xbox news, which we'll get into. So Sony decided that Xbox had enough negative this week, and they decided to want all of the hate in one go. The other thing that happened is that PlayStation is deleting over 500 purchased movies from customers' libraries starting September 1st, 2026, due to expiring content license agreements with Studio Canal. The effective list includes large, famous titles like Terminator 2, Rambo, Apocalypse Now, Hot Fuzz, Moonlight, and many, many more. There's 500 titles. This purge affects users in Europe and the UK. US users are currently unaffected, but it has already happened in the US once. The legal reality of this is Sony's EULA, that's End User License Agreement, dictates that buying digital content does not equal true ownership. As we constantly say, you are buying a license, not an actual thing. No refunds, no store credit, no compensation is being offered to anyone who purchased, quote unquote, purchased these films. The situation has obviously sparked a lot of people going back and forth talking about how physical media is king, which, again, we have always said digital purchases are licenses. Whether or not we want it to be that way, whether or not we think it's right, whether or not it'll stand up in court, it doesn't matter. Right now, the reality is that if you buy a digital item, you do not own it. You do not.
Yep.
And this isn't like a shutting down the versions of the PlayStation store, which we'll get into, where you still have access to those titles you've already purchased. These are being revoked and removed. It's not that you just can't buy them anymore. They are physically being ripped out of your, well, not physically. They are metaphorically being ripped out of your digital hands, and you will lose access to them.
Yep. There's a very good reason that I just never purchase digital movies. Number one, I'm not one of those people who tend to rewatch things, hardly ever. And number two, why? Why would I purchase something digital when I can just purchase a physical copy and then rip it and put it into a digital storage? Like, it's mine. I can do what the hell I want with it.
Well, technically, legally, I mean, but
no, legally, you can rip it off the disc. You cannot redistribute.
That's fair. That's fair.
That is the only thing.
That's fair. That's a fair point. But physical discs tend to be more expensive, which is true. But I do tend to agree with you. If I love a movie enough where I'm like, sometime in the future, whether it's 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I want to watch this again. I also loved it enough that I want to support it. So I want to give them money to say, hey, I want more of this type of movie. I will go buy a digital copy. Not a digital copy, sorry. I will go buy a Blu-ray version of it so that I have that copy. I've done that with a couple different movies over time. I've done that with a few anime series over time. So, yeah, I'm 100% agree with you. It's a bummer. So anyone out there who has a digital library of movies, depending on how you have it stored or where you bought it, be on your toes. And speaking of buying things from a digital storefront, Sony Interactive Entertainment has officially announced that they are the phased shutdown of the PlayStation 3 and PlayStation Vita digital stores. Sony confirmed that they will completely cease the production of physical discs for new releases starting in January 2028 as well. Let's get to the lesser of those two things. First, the closure of those two stores. Sony is confirming that the legacy hardware is no longer able to support modern commerce and payment processing updates. Debatable.
Very.
So they are closing those stores. The closures will occur as a staggered global rollout. August 2026, the PlayStation 3 store will close in Mexico, Honduras, and Nicaragua. With late 2026, the PS3 store will close in Latin America, Middle Eastern countries. And in July of 2027, the PlayStation Store for both PlayStation 3 and Vita will close globally in all remaining regions. Now, this is unfortunate because some of the games that I mentioned earlier, like Infamous, can only be purchased on those old digital stores, specifically the PlayStation 3 store. So, unless you already have it, access to those will be shut off for forever at that point. Now, again, if you already purchased it, unlike the movies, you will still be able to previously purchase the content, quote, for the foreseeable future, end quote. So, there is no guarantee that at some point you also won't lose access to downloading the digital game you bought.
Yep. Well, and man. When they eventually shut down these servers, how many games do you think will just become unplayable?
A lot.
Yes. And that's the thing that I think a lot of people don't realize is that even if you have the physical disc, if it requires an online connection, you will still not be able to play it.
Yeah, I mean, one
so
of the most
you still don't own shit.
No. Now, that's not all PlayStation 3 titles, because this
Not
generation, a lot of it wasn't online.
Yes, I know.
Fully integrated, so not quite as bad. There are still some examples, like Little Big Planet, which was the biggest bummer for me, because that was a community-driven, like, make maps for people to play type of thing. And that experience just doesn't exist. Like, it's gone forever. All those community maps that people made, all kinds of unique fun things, that unique experience with Sackboy, that's just gone forever. It's lost to the ether to never be experienced again by the wider world, which is a bummer, because any SNE, and I mean, I'm going to sound like an old man, but any SNE, any console generation basically up to the midlife of the Xbox and the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. Anyone wants those experiences, unless they were obviously multiplayer only games, still have those. And even then, if they were at least co-op or LAN, you can still invite people over and still have that experience.
Yeah.
Hell, the controls suck for a modern audience, but if you want to slap in GoldenEye to an N64 and invite 4 people over, you can still yell at whoever's fucking playing Odd Job.
That goes back.
Yeah, it does. But I mean, you could even, like OG Xbox or Xbox 360 Halo 3, you're playing SWAT, no shields with battle rifles on a Halo. You can still do that in a LAN setting. You can hook up multiple consoles. Like, that's something you can still do to this day.
Yep.
These titles, it's not happening. It's going away. And it's a bummer.
Well, it sucks too, because that kind of capability has been removed. It's just completely gone from modern games in general. Even modern consoles, they generally can't interface with each other on the same network anymore.
I mean, gosh, I just brought up Halo, right?
Mm-hmm.
The revamped Halo Combat Evolve, whatever it is, Combat Evolve, whatever dumb name they gave
Evolved.
the PlayStation, Campaign Evolved, right? Has the co-op. Requires a PlayStation account, requires a Microsoft account.
On
How
both.
long? How long are those games going to be supported? Because you have to have both of them. So if one of them stops working or stops being supported, you can't do co-op anymore.
Correct. You absolutely cannot. And like, this is honestly, it just gets ridiculous when it comes to giant multiplayer online games, right? Like Fortnite is a great example of this. If the servers die, or a bunch of the entire player base just stops playing, at the end of the day, the experience is not even remotely the same if you're the only person on the server.
No.
Right? You're just killing a bunch of bots, which at that point they could just legitimately release a single player version of that and call it a day.
I mean, for some of us, that's been the experience in day one. But
yeah, I know.
I'm just kidding. Not for me. I'm not the Fortnite guy.
I know you're not. But it's still hilarious.
I feel like I had to make the joke.
But like, when you look at other more, like, they still have multiplayer aspects, but they have online single player experiences, which is the dumbest phrase I think I'll ever utter on this podcast. It's stupid. Their servers are going to go down, and eventually you're just going to not be able to access that anymore.
We just talked about the latest Call of Duty Black Ops.
Yep.
Not just talked about, in the last few months, where people were getting booted out of the campaign because the game had an update.
Yep.
It's dumb. It is
so
dumb. And here's the thing. It's not going to get any better, Heru, because as I mentioned, starting January 2028, physical game disc production for all new games releasing on PlayStation consoles will be officially discontinuing. So following this date, only new titles will be available digitally through the PlayStation Store, which, as we now know, is not forever, and as digital download code sold as retail. If the store stops being serviced and you have an active code, can you actually redeem it? Or does it become non-functional after that point?
It has to hit your activation server, right? It has to hit that server, and if that server doesn't exist anymore, you're like, that's just a dead code. Congratulations.
100%.
And now, I think at some point...
Hold on. Before you go on, hold that thought. I just wanted to finish that it does not impact older titles. Any games releasing prior to January 2028 will still be available in disc format, and any discs that you have, assuming they function, normally, will still be usable past that date. It's only newly released games moving forward past that date, to be clear here. Sorry, you were saying?
I really think that at the end of the day, we're never going to be able to force it, but our governments need to force these companies to give a hard date, right? We will, permanently, or not permanently, we will support this game up to this date and potentially beyond, right? Whether that be 10 years, 5 years, 15 years, 30 years, I don't care.
But it should be on the box so you know what
exactly.
you're getting into.
If you're telling
not
me...
the box, the digital storefront.
Yeah, exactly. If you're telling me what I'm purchasing is a license, that license needs to indicate how long I'll have access to it. Otherwise, the assumption and the legal assumption is that I will always have access to it.
Now, there are plenty of lawsuits currently happening right now because the usage is purchased.
Correct.
Right? Without any date specifications, which I agree with. It should either be subscribe for, God, what's the base price now? 70. Well, if it's Grand Theft Auto, subscribe for $80, right? And it should say on there for a minimum term of 10 years or whatever. And that's fine. And if you want to put on there purchase and then below that put a 10-year license, that's also fine. Yeah. But that needs to be in there. It should not just be purchased, because the idea of purchasing something is that you own it.
Correct.
Subscribing obviously indicates you don't own it and you're paying for an ongoing service, right? And putting lease in there indicates that you're not purchasing it long term. But those are all qualifying words. If it's just purchase, the safe assumption is that I'm owning it.
Correct.
So that's where we're at. I'd like to point out that PlayStation made a whole joke. I've said it before, but a whole joke at Xbox's expense where they made a whole joke video of, this is how you share games on a PS4. And it was the two Sony execs that just one of them hands a physical copy to the other. And all it took was 2 generations for that to be gone.
2 generations for them to realize, oh, that's why they did it.
That's how they wanted to do it. They backtracked. But I mean, it's... This is why Sony regained the foothold from the Xbox 360. Was that jab. And here we are now. No more hardware. Yeah. I think this partially comes from the fact that GTA is doing it. So that Band-Aid was basically ripped off. And Sony can go, okay, well, we're not the first ones doing it, so now we're going to do it. It's never going to happen. But if Microsoft wanted to retain the initiative, they could do the exact same thing in return and be like, hey, we know we've messed up over the years, but at least we're not taking away your ability to share your games.
They should, honest to God, they should just find that video, the one that PlayStation put out. They should just remake it scene for scene. And
I don't think they even should remake it for scene. They should do the thing that what the meme videos do, which is they should just put the PNG photo of 2 Xbox exec heads over the Sony guys' heads, and then just put the same PNG of an Xbox game over the PlayStation box game. And that's it. Like, just straight up rip it fully with meme status on it.
God, that would be hilarious. It would be perfect. I mean, look, at the end of the day,
but
at the end of the day, the only way that we are ever going to get these companies to quit shutting down our games is by class actioning them.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, go back to the original purchase agreement, and it does not state that there is an end date to my access.
Nope.
So either refund me fully, inflation included, or turn it back on and keep it on permanently.
Yeah, 100%. It's not happening, though.
No, not unless we class action them, like I said.
And why do you think they picked 2028?
Let going to go with RAM prices.
You're going to go with RAM prices?
Yeah, sure.
I'm going to go with new console launch.
That's fair. That's probably better.
I honestly think that that 2028 date, they are picking that A, to try to avoid some of the memory pricing, which is what you said.
Yeah.
But B, they're avoiding the memory pricing because that's when they're kind of planning on launching a new console. So they're talking about being all digital now because I'm going to assume none of the PlayStations come with disk drives.
Oh, yeah. Almost guaranteed.
So,
now, when was the last time you built a PC with a disk drive?
Well, that would be the PC before this one, so that would have been 2011.
Okay, so 15 years. Yeah.
To be fair, though,
Uh-huh.
I have a USB portable Blu-ray drive, but that's
fair.
Mainly to play the physical movies that we talked about that I own.
Yeah, but like, just put them onto a storage system, man. Figure it out.
I mean, look, I'm not saying I have it plugged in next to me all the time. It's in a drawer, but all I have to do is whip it out, plug it in by USB, and I'm good to go.
That's fair.
But I mean, that's where we are. It's sad that that's the kind of the world we're moving to, especially when Sony was the champion of like, no, you're going to be able to share your games, but the secondary gaming market dies here. This is where it dies. I'm not saying it will fully go away because you're still going to have people that for a very long time sell copies of old games, period. Mm-hmm. That will always be a thing that exists. The amount of those stores may drop heavily, but they will never fully disappear, just like there's antique stores and everything like that. I
also would not doubt if there are people who purchase digital copies, download them onto like a USB or a disc, and crack them, and then sell them black market.
Yeah, you're not wrong. The other thing, because I just pulled this up now, so I had to remember what it was, but it does look like potentially, and this is from The Verge, that Microsoft might be testing a disc-to-digital feature where it would allow Xbox owners to convert their existing physical game discs into digital licenses and enable disc-to-digital where they basically can make it digital with a license and then shift it off of it to somebody else. So you can digitally loan your games to a friend.
That would be cool. And honestly, someone's gonna do it, and I'm expecting it to be Steam.
Like with all the PC discs?
Yeah. Well, not even necessarily that.
You just mean the
like,
digital games. Well, I mean, it already does.
Well, the ability
you have the
to
friends
loan.
and family accounts.
Yeah,
anyone on the same computer or whatever can just...
Same network.
But point being is anyone in the house basically can do it.
Yeah. Exactly. But being able to loan it to a Steam friend that's not necessarily in your home.
I mean, if you really trust that friend.
I know. Believe me, I know. But that's my point.
Access to your account.
Someone is going to do it. And whether or not they do it for, the kudos, or whether or not they do it for some kind of marketing scheme, somebody is going to do it. And all it takes is one of those big companies to do this, and all of the rest will have to follow.
The only way I see it working on Steam is if it's an opt-in feature and not a mandated feature. Just because I feel like there's a lot of those big companies that would balk at that idea. So if it was an opt-in feature where the game could be allowed to be doing that, then I would see it definitely happening on Steam.
Yeah, absolutely. But think of all the single-player games that you're like, I don't really want to buy this.
Yeah. I mean, fair. Alrighty. Well, finally, we've reached the end of the Sony rant. Although we do have Bungie news later, so it's not fully over. But for the moment, we're taking a breather. There are some GTA 6 performance speculations that are out there, with the game supposedly being a 30 FPS lock. That's 30 frames. With the bottleneck being the CPU on the basically CPU limitations on the PS5 and Xbox Series X, which God, still dumb name. I hate that name so much. So between the NPCs, the traffic, and all the different physics and the quality of the graphics in the new map, supposedly they just can't reach that native 60 FPS. So popular Polish podcast Rocky and Boris recently reported that a 60 FPS mode is in the works for PS5 and Xbox Series X, with a large Microsoft team assisting specifically on optimizing for their platform. But none of that is actually happening. And at the moment, it looks like even on the pro versions of hardware, you're still only getting 40 FPS on 120 hertz display, with them heavily trying to get to that 60 FPS mark. Now, for anyone that doesn't know, not coming out on PC. So that's one of the reasons you're seeing no 60 frames here in this discussion, because it's only console release at the moment. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Like, these are not the most advanced consoles out there at the moment, right? And you're talking about a massive game with a lot of physics and calculations taking place because of how open and massive it is. If it comfortably hit 60 FPS on these older consoles, I would have been shocked.
Me too. I mean, this is the Monster Hunter Reach issue. Or not Reach. Rise.
I was like, Halo Reach?
Yeah, I was back in Halo. This is where I was. But yeah, it's the Monster Hunter Rise issue, right? They released it originally on the Switch. It barely got 30 FPS. You put it on a PC, even just like a semi-decent PC, and it gets 144 FPS because they had to dumb it down so much to get it onto the Switch.
Yep, 100%. And to be clear here, there's not a Switch version currently, but you're just talking about the comparison between these 6-year-old consoles and high-end, middle to high-end PCs.
Yeah, but exactly. Like it's just dumb. And they do this constantly. They did this with a different game during the flip between 4 and 5 for PlayStation. And it was like something stupid where they were like, oh yeah, you could pay $10 and upgrade your copy from a PlayStation 4 version to a PlayStation 5 version. And I'm like,
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah. Why? How about you just delay your game and just release it for the next console version, or just stop releasing on console altogether?
I mean, I think it was fine when the PlayStation 5 hadn't come out yet, so it was like, hey, just buy our game now, and then if you get a PS5, you can pay $10 and play it on PS5.
Stupid.
That I'm okay with.
No, because it's the same thing. Right? They're doing the exact same thing. We all know the PlayStation 6 is releasing at some point.
Yep.
Just don't release this on the PS5 at all.
No way. The install's too big.
Yeah.
Plus, they've been developing it for 13 years.
Right. Just don't release this on the PlayStation 5. Don't release this on modern consoles. Just release it on the next console version.
Just release it on PC is what you're saying.
Correct. That is what I'm saying.
All right,
Figure it out.
Elitist.
I'm not an elitist. It has nothing to do with elitism and everything to do with consoles are a dying breed.
Can't get above 60 frames per second. You shouldn't even exist. How terrible, you peons in the dirt.
No, but real talk, and I say this fondly of my memories of consoles, because like I started gaming on a PlayStation 1, right? And Game Boy, right? I started in those eras. I get it. They are absolutely great. They make things very simple. But at a certain point, technology just surpasses them.
Yep.
And we run into this problem over and over and over again, where they make this game and it just absolutely burns your hardware to the ground because it can't handle it, because they didn't design it for that.
Here's the thing. Consoles have been between 30 and 60 frames for a long time.
No, believe me, I know. That's why I stopped.
It comfortably runs at 30 frames. It's acceptable, assuming you're not getting ridiculous dips, and assuming you're not getting, God, what's the term from it? Adaptive resolution or whatever it is, where it's downgrading the resolution to hold the 30 frames. Like if it's 1080 frames or 1080p, 30 frames with very rare dips, okay.
I mean, sure, but
fine.
Show me a 1080p TV.
I mean,
you can't buy one anymore.
Yeah, you can.
They are basically all 4K, brother.
No, they are not. The cheap TVs, look, Richie Rich over here, okay? There are plenty of 1080p displays, especially on the cheap, that you can go buy right now. Yes, 4K TVs have become way more affordable, and they are way more prevalent, but 1080p is still widely used out there. We look at the Steam hardware surveys, and most of the market is still on 1080p, followed by the next huge chunk at 1440p, with 4K still in third place.
I don't even know if I can consider these TVs anymore.
Get out of here.
Bro, no, this is hilarious. I'm finding this out right now, live.
Okay.
720p TVs are still made.
Yes, because they are. They're
what
not
the hell?
Great, but yeah.
Bro, they cost less than like a car wash at this point.
Yeah, I mean, a 1080p monitor can be had for like $40. So, but that's the point. That's why they still exist. That's why they're the most prevalent, because they're affordable.
Right. Yeah. So, I get it. I don't know, man. I think that
Daddy
personally,
Warbucks over here. Okay,
yeah, shut up. I think personally, at the end of the day, if you're making a game on these consoles that are specifically capable of 2K,
with the pros being 4K,
but the base versions are capable of 1440, and you're making a game, and your target is 30 FPS at 1080p, just get out of the business.
But it's GTA, dog.
I don't care.
It's so massive. It's so much different than a linear narrative experience. There's so much more overhead. You have to pick and choose your battles. Again, if you can hit a stable 30 FPS at 1080p, I think it's fine. I think that's reasonable on those consoles. As long as you're not, and here's where I will agree with you. If it's the freaking Cyberpunk experience, okay, where things are just straight up broken, look terrible, textures aren't loading right, if at all.
You know that's going to happen.
Right? Like, I mean, maybe. It may happen. I think it's more likely than not that that's what's going to happen. But I think the only reason... actually, you know what? I disagree with what I just said. I think it's a safer bet that it will be mostly stable. I don't know if it's going to be stable at 1080p and instead is a lower resolution, AI scaled up. But I do think it'll be stable because it's the only thing it's releasing on, right? Unlike Cyberpunk, which also released on the current generation consoles and the PC, along with the previous generation of consoles, which that was the broken one. I think that's the main reason here why it'll be probably playable, because this is it, right? This is all their sales for the foreseeable future until the next consoles come out in 2 years. And the PC version comes out, which I can't remember if it was a year and a half or 2 years after GTA 5's release that it came out PC. So like, this is it. This is how Take-Two and Rockstar gets their money. So if it's unplayable and you start getting the same thing where console manufacturers have to issue refunds, that's it. You're toast.
Yeah, 100%.
So
I will
think
be selling
it'll
my
be
stock.
stable. Yeah, right? Your stock. I'll be selling my stocks.
Yeah.
Dude, I will be watching that midnight release as a hawk.
I bet you will.
And if it's broken, like, I'm waiting for the markets to open and they're just hitting sell all immediately.
I mean, I know we talked about this last time after the podcast, but we also talked about it during, I think. I've actually almost made the cost of the game.
Yeah. I think 50 right now. So you've made half the cost of the game, almost.
Yeah, just about.
So
Mm-hmm.
you're doing pretty good. I will point out, just because we've been talking a lot about discs lately, there was a rumor initially that went around saying that there would be a disc version of GTA like a month after the game release. No, that's been officially shot down. Not happening. Do not expect a digital or a disc physical release ever. That was 100% a made up rumor, at least for the moment. And just as a reminder, game launches November 19th. Preload is November 12th for anyone that's interested. The last piece of news for GTA is that I'll get into is that there was also some heavy rumors where Microsoft is pushing back against those numbers without offering any sort of evidence to the contrary. So who knows? But the rumor is that PlayStation pre-orders are at minimum a 6-to-1 differential between PlayStation and Xbox, which would not surprise me with the install base of those two consoles at the moment. So we'll see. Microsoft did say that GTA 6 is breaking pre-order records on the Xbox digital storefront. So who knows what the actual truth is. Alrighty. Getting away from shop class, let's get into some Lost and Found. Now, instead of Lost and Found, this article is more like Found and then Lost. So, that awesome Dbrand companion cube case for the Steam machine was 100% unlicensed.
I'm not even surprised.
Bro, this is insane. So, not only did Dbrand manufacture this, they did all the molds, all the prototyping. You're talking thousands of engineering hours, 44 sets of injection molded tools. Some estimates are like $2 million in R&D and production costs. And initially, we're losing a little bit of money on the $100 version. And all of that is now just wiped out because they literally applied the ask for forgiveness instead of permission philosophy to a major company.
Yeah.
And thought that it would work and they would get away with it, as they didn't get any sort of official documentation from Valve that they could do this. And now, to be clear here, Dbrand has done other tie-ins. They've done PlayStation, PS5, covers. They've done Nintendo, or they've done like Zelda themed stuff, but it's never official assets. It's always, looks like it could be in that universe, uses the colors, uses the style of font, assuming it's not a copyrighted font, right, and goes from there. None of it's officially licensed assets. The companion cube is an in-game asset for Portal that is 100% covered under copyright for that title.
And I mean, I don't know if you guys know, but Valve is really protective of the Portal IP.
Yeah, well, just a lot of their assets in general. Like you're not going to be able to use that without their permission. So,
yeah,
the whole thing is wild because it was their second fastest selling item in their 15-year history.
I'm not surprised.
And obviously, shortly after launch, Valve issued a takedown request because Dbrand never got any licensing rights. Dbrand tried to appeal to Valve, which, sure, you've already spent all this money, so why not? You have nothing to lose other than everything, which is already happening. Right. So might as well go for it. And Valve obviously declined because you can't set this precedent. You can't set a precedent where a company can do an entire official tie-in without ever getting your permission, and then you go, you rascal, sure, why not? Because you're just going to get more companies that are going to try to do it. So Dbrand had to cancel all of their pre-orders. They obviously gave back refunds. And they put out a whole, we're sorry, we effed up, and basically gave this whole breakdown initially. Like, yeah, we didn't actually ask for any permission. I mean, dude, they even did a whole crazy launch thing. They had a launch video where they rented out in a university campus and had an elaborate video with like fake Half-Life 3 like leaks and stuff. Like they put so much money into this.
Yep.
Never got permission.
Dbrand, whoever runs that company, dude, they are pure insanity. I don't know if you've seen like half of their marketing stuff. Literally, I vividly remember waking up. I think, granted, I wake up pretty late sometimes, but I woke up to a text message from Dbrand, right? Because I get their marketing shit because it just gives me laughs at this point. I wake up to a statement of, we bought a tank. Literally. And they had this whole description. They're like, at a certain point, when you have enough money, a tank isn't actually that hard to acquire. And I was like, this is the most ridiculous thing ever. And yes, they did. They bought a tank, and then they ran over one of the phone's cases that they make.
Oh, yeah?
And it was fine. And I was like, this is the craziest marketing tactic ever.
Well, I mean, dude, first of all, they did a whole companion cube video with Linus Tech Tips, which blows my mind that they didn't have permission and they still did all of this cross marketing and promotion. But the thing that always killed me was the sponsorships they did for LTT videos, where Linus is just like not crapping on the product, but he's just crapping on the company the entire time. Yeah. And the like back and forth, they just give each other crap. And it's like, this is just, it's entertaining to no end. They seem like a whole bunch of chill people. Mm-hmm. This is a little too chill.
Yes.
You've gone
just a tiny bit.
Chill. And it's a bummer because the product looked dope. And if I had a Steam machine, I 100% would have gotten one.
Yeah.
But like, it's, dude, wild. And to be clear here, Dbrand products, both you and I, have had good experience with Dbrand products and customer service. Like I've had a Dbrand product kind of disintegrate on me, and the company was like, "Yeah, send us photos. Okay, cool. Here's your new one in the mail." It was like, sweet.
Literally
like,
same thing.
Almost no questions asked other than for a photo. So,
yeah, like, literally the exact same thing. In fact, I think the same exact piece on both of our cases broke.
Yep. And they took care of it. It was obviously a design flaw. And you know what? On my new model of flip phone, I actually don't see the same cracking, which I had on the last one. So
I think mine's the same. Granted, all I did was replace the exact same case. And I'm pretty sure it still has the same design flaw. I would be very surprised
within the same
if
model,
it wasn't.
Right? So what I'm saying is, like, on the next versions of these, I think they fixed that particular thin flaw on that hinge where it cracks and falls out.
Yeah, potentially.
But hey, they took care of you, so
they did.
I think that's the big
Will
thing
they
here.
do it again when it inevitably breaks in 6 more months? Who knows?
Hey, you know what? Come back here and tell us.
Fair enough. Now, this is wild. Now, I do think that at the end of the day, Dbrand doesn't lose any customer points, right?
Well,
no
other
one's
than people calling them idiots, but
Yeah,
not
exactly.
people unwilling to buy their product.
Exactly. It's not going to have anything to do, because like at the end of the day, who cares if you did get an unlicensed companion cube? Are you fucking happy with it, or are you mad? Like,
Oh man.
at the end of the day, the only thing they actually needed the license for was to use the asset. They don't need a license to make a case for the Steam Cube.
Correct. Yeah.
Right? So
Steam
like
machine.
they can still make Steam Cube cases.
Why do you
And they
keep
probably
saying
still
Steam Cube?
will.
It's the Steam machine.
Whatever, it's a cube. Let's be real, okay?
Sure. And the Xbox is a tall 3D rectangle. What's that? What's the geometric object for rectangle? It's not
I'm
cube.
pretty
What is it?
It's not a rhombus either.
Yeah, it's like I'm missing off the top of my head.
Yeah, I got nothing, man. Other
Anyways,
than maybe box.
Point being, you still call it the name that it is. Just PC Cube. The
Nah.
Steam Cube.
Nah. Steam Cube was a better name.
Not the Valve Cube?
No, not the Valve Cube.
All right. Anyways, Dbrand is ridiculous. Let's move on to civics and sociology. All right. Taking a look at our institutions. Now, I could have probably also put this in business with Sony, but we had enough to talk about with Sony, so I put it here instead. And this news came out before all of the negative Sony news, so Xbox was taking a beating and then got some relief. We talked about a bunch of studios being closed. Apparently, that's only the tip of the iceberg, as they are undergoing a massive internal restructuring and are trying to cut costs after seeing a huge dip in revenue, a lot of it caused by that Activision Blizzard deal, which you've mentioned multiple times. A lot of those layoffs are scheduled to begin or be executed on July 6th, with potentially about 1,000 jobs being cut across the Xbox gaming division. Potential studios on the chopping block is Arcane, which would be a big one because they're working on a Marvel Blade title. Little piece of interesting information too. That Marvel Spider-Man game that's exclusive to PlayStation was actually offered to Xbox and Microsoft first, and they declined. So if they cut this and it goes to PlayStation, ends up being a success, that would be wild, because that would be two Marvel hits that they would have missed out on. Ninja Theory with 135 jobs, Undead Labs, which I would be bummed about because that would be my State of Decay 3, which would be Persona non grata. Double Fine Productions with 100 jobs, Compulsion Games with 90 jobs, with people already advised at that studio that they should be looking for jobs, so that's happening. And there was a bit of kerfuffle with some rumors going around that some of the offices had actually been locked at Rare by security guards to deny entry to staff. Didn't see what happened with that, because that was like yesterday, so I didn't see any update on what happened with that. And that could just be a rumor, to be clear. That's unsubstantiated. But
Fair.
Wouldn't surprise me with everything that's happened. On top of that, Game Pass acquisitions have been frozen. So the era of pulling everything and everything onto Game Pass, making it a good value because they reduced the price back down, is over. Multiple independent developers at the quote-unquote first playable back-to-back event in Italy confirmed that Microsoft has entirely suspended the signing of new third-party deals for the Xbox Game Pass service, with Xbox also abruptly withdrawing financial offers for studios that were in early negotiations. However, third-party games that already have formal signed agreements are still expected to hit the service. One of the biggest ones to be affected by this was pulling out of an IO Interactive deal. Microsoft officially pulled funding from IO Interactive, that's the developers of Hitman and the 007 game, for their live service MMO light quote-unquote Project Fantasy. Xbox spokesperson stated the company is not reducing overall investment, but changing where it invests its focus on highest priorities. with the withdrawal already affecting layoffs at IO Interactive. Then, all at the same time, Microsoft announced another round of price hikes for the consoles. Effective August 1st, Microsoft is implementing steep worldwide price increases, with the 512 gig models increasing by $100, the 1 terabyte model increasing by $150, and the 2 terabyte model being discontinued completely. And this is obviously related to memory prices. They are also heavily pushing and promoting consumer financing programs, including 0% APR through Amazon for 12 months, a buy now, pay later type of thing for consoles. So, also not good news.
Yeah. I mean, the payment plan thing, it's going to happen.
Yeah,
right?
especially if they're over $1,000.
Yeah, and they are going to have to finance it themselves. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm talking Xbox and PlayStation. They're both going to have to do this if their consoles are over $1,000. Inflation and on top of this RAMpocalypse has absolutely moved consoles out of the like standard average user price range.
Potential living room impulse buy. Right?
Correct.
Like, you had to plan for a gaming PC. But for a console, you could be like, you know what? I have a bit of extra money. I've been wanting to play the new games I've been hearing about for the last year. Sure, let's go get this on a Black Friday sale. And you could.
Right.
When it was like $400 on sale, $300 on sale. Not when it's $600, $700. Just not the same.
Yeah, it's not the same at all.
But that's where we're at. And that's one of the reasons why, as we mentioned earlier, that PlayStation and Xbox are having some of their worst hardware sales ever. With Xbox specifically having their worst hardware sales ever. And now you're going to increase prices again. So, dude, you're just going to keep declining sales. And those layoffs that are happening are not going to improve because you're not going to be selling more Xboxes. Dude, it's just going to be a circular decline unless they figure out some way to change it.
Yeah, it's going to be a downward spiral for a while.
Yep. Alrighty, last piece of news before we end for the day. Those rumored Bungie layoffs, as we alluded to earlier, did happen. So on June 25th, Bungie and Sony Interactive Entertainment announced significant workforce reductions. Bungie leadership stated the decision was made because Destiny 2 fell short of financial expectations over the past several years. Yeah, your very successful game fell short of financial expectations because A, you tried to monetize it in terrible ways, and B, you stopped supporting it for the last 2 years. There was like 600 days of no new content, so no shit, Sherlock. Like, this, I don't know why they're blaming Destiny 2. They need to be blaming their own in-house development timelines and specifically the failure that is Marathon. I don't know how this is Destiny 2's fault. It's ridiculous. Anyways.
Well, I mean, Destiny 2 was just supposed to rake them in money constantly without any effort.
Yeah, no, zero effort and give us all the money. And yeah, even though we had terrible monetization in that game, they still should have just thrown money at us. Dude, like all I'm seeing here is also a failure of leadership at this company as well.
Oh yeah.
Anyways, the final content update shipped that we talked about. Herman Hulse, CEO of SIE, that's again Sony Interactive Entertainment, distributed an internal email confirming the cuts affect most of the Destiny team while maintaining that the Marathon team remains a critical portfolio priority. I'm sure. With those install numbers, I'm sure it's remaining a priority.
Yeah, for real though.
Initial estimates shared by journalists place the number of impacted employees on the layoff call itself at over 400. Official WARN filings have since confirmed that at least 292 full-time Bungie staff in Washington state were eliminating, which represents over a third of the studio's workforce. Contractors were also heavily effective, including those effectively helping to test and ship the game Destiny, specifically final hotfix, as well as contractors assigned to Marathon. Entire departments were wiped out, including the Destiny VFX team and its leads. Departing staff included a lot of generational talent that had been at the studio for a very long time, including dating back to the Halo era. And that also means some top people, including studio head Justin Truman, stepping down after taking over for Pete Parsons less than a year prior. My goodness. Dude. Like, we talked about this, the rumor. It's happened. It's not surprising. This is a failure on Sony's leadership part and Bungie's leadership, like trying to make something work that they shouldn't have and stopping their income revenue stream to work on. And I saw rumors that they were working on multiple other things that never happened either. So you want new products, but you can't abandon the thing that's making you money and keeping you alive. But
I mean, it's just dumb at the end of the day. Like, Sony is clearly on this big make the next big thing kick, probably because some executive somewhere wants a big bonus. That's probably the freaking reality, even though they already make too much money.
Yeah, you're pretty much, I think, right on the money.
And on top of that, like, you never want to see studios, especially long-running studios that have long-running veterans in their company.
People with a pedigree.
Exactly. People with a pedigree, people who have extensive knowledge of video game development. You never really want to see that die. But at the exact same time, those talents were being wasted at Bungie. So
mismanagement for sure.
Yeah, mismanagement, being forced onto projects that were never going to succeed in the first place. Mm-hmm. And I have seen time and time again, a lot of these big veterans have moved into newer projects that have more ambition and have just blown things out of the water.
Yeah, I mean, Arc Raiders is a great example of industry veterans that moved and created that studio, and then they came out with the finals, which was great, and then they came out with Arc Raiders, which was great. They were able to do their own thing, and lo and behold, whoa, we can still make good games. Yeah.
Yeah. The biggest problem in the video game industry when this stuff happens is non-competes.
True.
And those non-competes generally stop them from creating their own companies, too.
Well, if it comes with a severance package, yeah. Because you can't fire somebody and then tell them they can't look for a new job.
Fire them and be like, you can't work for any other gaming studio for 2 years.
Yeah, that's your background and your resume, but you can't do it.
Yeah, exactly. Go work at Walmart.
Oh, man. Yeah, it's brutal. I think the other half of this is Sony way overpaying for Bungie as a panic reaction to the Microsoft acquisition of Activision. So, on top of mismanagement of the studio and financial obligations, the expectations were way too high because of the billions they spent on Bungie, which just, why? Like, I don't remember what it was, like 3.6 billion or something. Like, it was too much. But that's where we are. Bit of a side note. The people are being released and let go and fired about 6 days before they would have gotten bonuses for that acquisition for a lot of the staff. So,
that's just BS. I could see that coming back to bite them fast.
Speculation.
Yeah, of course.
But from those same WARN notice lists, it looks like there's about a 6-day difference between a lot of those stock retention grants were set to vest. So, yep. So that could be part of it, and a little bit of let's say heartlessness or indifference from Sony's standpoint. Herman Hulst used the exact same SIE web link for the Bungie announcement as the Concord one, and instead they just added a 2 to the end of the URL.
Oh, that's a banger.
So, yeah, you show that you really care there with that one.
Wow.
Oh, man.
Yeah, this is true. So, for those who are not aware, Herman Hulst did champion the Panic acquisition of Bungie, as you mentioned, but he also oversaw the Concord failure.
Yep.
So,
and he's the one pushing for live service.
Yeah, and he's the one pushing for live service. So let's discuss. Is he a financial hazard to this company?
I would say yes.
Yeah. I don't
think about all the other
discuss
stuff
there,
that's
to be
been
honest.
canceled that we've talked about that he's oversaw. Like, oh man, yeah,
disappointing.
It is. I'm not sure PlayStation and Sony is the same game focused company that it was previously, trying to deliver those amazing gaming experiences to people, and instead chasing the almighty dollar. But
yep, the bigger they are, the harder they fall.
That's true. And on that note, that's all we have for this week. Alrighty, people, close your books, pack those bags. That's all we have time for this week. And if you're in the U.S., we hope you enjoy your extended and early weekend. Happy 4th of July to everybody out there that lives in my neck of the woods, and to everybody else. If it's legal in your area, go light up a firework in my honor. And if it's not, don't get arrested. Anyways, we hope you look forward to next week, and I want to see you participate next time. Peace.
See ya.